Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're so glad that you're here with us today and excited about kicking off this fantastic event. Well, let me go ahead and get started. My name is Richard Culatta. I'm the CEO of ISTE, but I also have the honor of serving as the chair of the Digital Citizenship Coalition, the DigCit Coalition. And this event is really a product of that group coming together. And we've done that in partnership with our great friends at Los Angeles Unified School District, and you'll hear more from them in just a bit. But it's a fantastic event that we're able to offer here and offer for free because of the partnership with the members of the coalition. So thank you, thank you. Let me dive in, and I want to just share. So most of you, I hope you all know that this is the end of Digital Citizenship Week. So DigCit Week has been happening this whole week, and it's an opportunity to raise awareness of topics around digital citizenship and how we can help create a healthier environment for young people to grow up. And so we have chosen today as the kind of culminating event of a week of great activities. And so thank you again for being here and joining with us. My topic today to kick this off is we're calling it Digital Citizenship is a Team Sport. And I hope that is a theme and a tone that will carry out through the whole day today, the time that we spend here together. And I'll start by asking you this. Can you think about some ways that your relationship with technology has changed over the last few years? And this could be a relationship if you're a teacher, a relationship with your students. For those of you that are joining us as parents and families, and I know those aren't mutually exclusive. I know we have some fall in both camps. How it's changed with you in your home. How has your relationship with technology changed? Yeah, it was crazy teaching virtually for 2 years. Absolutely. By the way, one quick thing, a number of you are posting, and you're posting to host and panelist. Can you make sure in your chat you change it to everyone? Because there's some great comments coming through, but not everybody is seeing them. So make sure you switch that to everyone. You have to little drop down and change it from host and panelist to everyone. And go ahead and chat that way. So yes, thank you. Now, thinking about some experiences, how many of you have participated in a Zoom wedding in the last couple years? Have any of those happened? Or I know for us, some of us, this is a picture of my kid here. We've been doing Zoom reading times with grandparents, with other members of the family. We use tools like Zoom and Slack. We DoorDash. I don't even know how I found food before DoorDash. I can't even remember what I did before DoorDash. I think I just walked around and foraged for food out in my yard or something. I don't know. These are tools that have transformed the way we live, the way we work, and they've done so in some really great ways. But they've also come along with some dysfunctions. And I think we know, and I think it's clear that there are some digital dysfunctions out there. We certainly talk a lot about cyberbullying and some of the mean things that happen in virtual spaces, but there's some other ones that I don't think we talk enough about. The volume of advertising that we put in front of all of us, but young people in particular, is interesting. Dr. Tufekci is a researcher who studies social engagement online, and she says if you were to look at what we've created in the internet, it's a dystopia for clicking ads, right? She says the whole thing that we've created is optimized around advertising, and that's problematic, and many others that we could think of. Now, you'll see that our approach today is to take a positive approach, not because we have rose-colored glasses on, but because actually we think a positive approach makes it more likely that our kids will grow up healthy in a virtual space. But we do have to be aware that there are these dysfunctions. And unfortunately, because there are these dysfunctions out there, some of the advice that parents have gotten, that teachers have gotten, it looks a little bit like this. Right? Go bury your devices in the backyard. Avoid them. Don't use them. Keep your kids away from them. Well, the problem with that approach, while it might feel cathartic to us to do that, and there are days, certainly I have 4 kids of my own where I would love to go bury some devices in the backyard. The challenge is it actually doesn't help, and in some cases can be even more harmful because we don't have the chance to model the effective technology use with them if they're buried in the backyard. So today, over the next little bit with some of these phenomenal sessions, we're going to talk about what are some approaches and strategies for modeling and building effective, healthy norms for tech use. And there's two guiding questions that I'd like to leave as we start kind of at the beginning here, and that is, how can we help kids become amazing humans in a digital world, right? Not just can they be okay, not just can they be safe, how can they be amazing humans in a digital world, leaders of our digital world? And then, of course, the natural second question is, what's the role of parents and families in making that happen? How do we do that? And so that's what we're going to talk about. Now, there are two problems that I want to call out that I want to just be a little careful about. And these are two that we see over and over again. And so I want to call them out so that we can then shift to maybe a different feel for our conversations today. And the two problems are that our conversations with young people tend to be negative, and they tend to be narrow when it comes to helping them be healthy members of this digital world. And I just want to briefly touch on both of these because the more we can, I think it will help us be able to create a healthier digital future. So we'll start with the two negative. Unfortunately, a lot of the families that I meet with, a lot of schools that I visit, the messaging that I hear is what I call the list of don'ts, right? Don't spend so much time on the computer. Don't be a jerk. Don't share your password. Don't do this. Don't do that. It's a list of don'ts. And it's not very compelling. Here's a list. Here's a school that I visited, and I blocked out the name so you can't see the name. But this is their use policy that they make students sign. It's 35 things not to do, 35 don'ts, not a single do. Not a single thing that we are articulating that we expect students to do with technology. I see this in homes as well. What are the rules? Don't. Well, what are your do's? Silence, right? Now, not only is this not very compelling, it's also a huge deterrent. It actually hinders our kids because being a healthy digital citizen, as we'll talk about, is a complex skill. And any complex skill, whether it's learning a language, whether it's learning to play a sport, whether it's learning to play the piano, any complex skill requires practice. And you can't practice not doing something. So if you're learning to play a sport and I come in and say, here's all the ways not to play baseball, right? And then I put you out on the field and say, okay, now go play baseball. You're going to be a terrible baseball player. At some point, we have to say, let's practice hitting the ball. Let's practice running around the bases. Let's practice catching. And that's the same approach that we need to take when we're thinking about digital citizenship. We need to have a list of do's. Now, these are do's that are healthy do's. They're things that we want young people to do, but we have to be able to pitch it in that way. The second piece that we need to be careful about is our conversations can be a little too narrow. And too narrow, I mean too narrow in terms of our focus, and too narrowly focused on online safety. Now, I want to say this carefully. What I am not saying is that online safety is not important. Online safety is incredibly important, and we need to make sure that we are helping kids be safe in this digital world. But I worry that in the last couple of years, it's felt like online safety has become the goal. And it really should be the bare minimum table stakes. It should be the low bar. Sometimes I joke, I used to be a teacher, and we used to go on field trips. We'd have to travel for field trips, and we'd have to make a justification to go on those field trips. And, why are we going? And, let's say we were going to the zoo, right? We'd say things like, well, we're going to learn about the animals, and we're going to learn about ecosystems and possible careers that our kids might be interested in. But imagine if I filled out the form for the field trip and I said, the purpose of the field trip is not to get into an accident on the bus on the way there. You could imagine people, my principal will be like, really? Because I think you could just not go anywhere and you could avoid having that problem. And unfortunately, that's what's happened a bit, I feel, with online safety. It has become the goal. And I would pose that online safety is actually an embarrassingly low bar for young people. Yes, we want them safe, but man, that is not the goal. The goal is to be amazing, awesome leaders of a digital world. And online safety is the bare minimum threshold. So, okay, if that's the case, if that's how we feel, if we should be thinking more broadly than just being safe, what are the skills that we need to know? Well, I'm going to propose to you that there are 5 competencies for digital citizenship. Now, these 5 competencies also happen to be the 5 that were developed by the Digital Citizenship Coalition that is producing this event, a group of organizations and schools. And so I don't own these. These are from very smart people that have come together. But I do want to just talk about them a little bit here. And I won't have time to talk about all of them, but I'll highlight a couple and I'll give you some examples. These 5 competencies are all actions that can be demonstrated either at home or school. So they're not a don't. There's no don'ts in here. They are do's. They can be practiced and they can be encouraged. They are also pitched in terms of they're positioned as things that young people can do, as opposed to things that we are doing to them, which sometimes can be a problem in some approaches. And I love the fact that these are competencies that can happen at home, at school, in the community, at work. These are competencies that all can adopt. And by the way, even though we are focusing today on young people, and this is about youth and helping young people grow up healthy, I think all of us as slightly more experienced young people could take these approaches and apply them very well in our lives as well. And so here are the 5 competencies that we'll talk about. In the 5 or so minutes that I have left with you as a kickoff, I'm going to pick a couple. Maybe I'll just do the first 3. We'll see if we have time. But I want to give you some examples of what these look like. So the first one that I'll tackle is balance. So balance is the question that I often get a lot. In fact, the number one question that I get, I speak all around the country and the world around this. I visit schools, I visit communities. The number one question I get, maybe some of you could guess this. My kid is blank years old. How much screen time should they have in a day? I appreciate that is a question that comes from an understanding that we need to balance the amount of tech use in our lives. But that question, unfortunately, cannot be answered. And in fact, if it is answered, it will cause more problems than good. Because we cannot assume, this assumes that all tech use has the same value, and it doesn't. And so what I want to pose to you today is a better question here. And it looks like what we need to be asking is, the real equation here, it looks like this. What is the maturity of the kid? What type of digital activity are they talking about using? And what is the context of their life? And that will give you the appropriate amount of screen time for that moment, which will be different in a different day, and even that same day. Now, by maturity of kid, that age could be part of it, but that could be very different. It means how much trust do they have? How much experience do they have? That's part of what comes in there. The type of digital activity. Is this an activity where they're creating, where they're engaging in curiosity? Is it an activity where there are other people involved? Is it sitting and watching a video that may have very limited learning value, right? Those are the factors we have to think about. And context, this is the one we always leave out. If I'm on an 8-hour drive and it's really boring and I've read some and I've had a conversation and we're just kind of passing the time and I'm gonna play Candy Crush for a little bit, that's probably okay. If I have a big assignment due tomorrow in school and it's 8 o'clock at night and I'm playing Candy Crush for 2 hours, that same activity, while it was okay in the previous context, makes no sense in that particular context. And so we have to move away of this idea of age equals time on screens. It is not helpful. And if you've noticed, a lot of the organizations, World Health Organization, the US Department of Education, have changed older guidelines that were made for TV watching. And they've said it is not so simple as age equals time. We have to think about what those activities are and how they're participating in them. Now, there are some other things that we can do to help with balance as well. And the underlying principle here is that we want young people to learn to use tech on their own time, on their own terms, excuse me. So not because there's a clock, but because they recognize that they are using the tech that they want to be used. So here are 2 quick tips, super quick tips that you can do to help increase balance in your life. The first is turn off autoplay on all the devices. Netflix, YouTube, Disney Plus, they all are defaulted to autoplay more videos. As soon as you finish another video, bam, there's another video coming up. And it's going to be determined not by a kid, not by a parent, but by an algorithm. And that is not healthy balance. And so just go in and turn off all of the autoplays. They're doable on all of the streaming media services. Just turn them off. I'm not saying don't watch videos, but do it on your terms. Watch the videos that you want to watch. The second one is related to that, and it's very important, which is turn off notifications. There are so many notifications that are pounding our kids' eyeballs every day. Come back and play my game. Come back and do this activity. Somebody posted on Insta. Somebody posted on Snap, right? Turn it all off. You don't need all those. Maybe leave the one on for text messages or phone calls, right? If you want to be able to get in touch with your kid. But if it's an app, let them go to the app when they want to, not because a developer has built in an alert that's screaming at them to come back all the time. And so this is a great simple thing that you can do. One more thing that you can do, and this is the last one that I'll leave on balance, and then I'll come on, is don't have your phone be an alarm clock. Buy an alarm clock. Reed Hastings said something really brilliant, I think very funny. Reed Hastings is the CEO of Netflix. Somebody said, "Who's your biggest competitor?" And they thought he was going to say, Hulu or I don't know what, Disney Plus. Here was his answer. We are actually competing with sleep, and we're winning. That was what he said. And so one of the most important things that we can do to protect our kids and also to help them get healthy balance is not have devices sleep in the rooms with them at night. Have a charging station, have it live somewhere else. And the number one reason that I hear when I say this to parents, when I speak with parents and they say, well, we can't do that because we use these phones as an alarm clock. And again, I go right back here, buy an alarm clock, problem solved. So that's a little bit about balance. I want to do at least one more of these to just give you a flavor of what this is about. So I'm going to talk about the informed one here. These tools that we have, these tools in our hands, they are such powerful tools for exploring and in increasing curiosity. So there are some amazing apps. These are some citizen science apps that I love that help make more meaning out of the world around us. Some can help you understand constellations, recognize insects, recognize plants. Another phenomenal way that we can be using these tools is to just learn about things. Wikipedia is a great option to help enable curiosity. And many of you may or may not know, but there is a simple English version called Wikipedia in Simple English for younger kids who may not understand the complex explanations of Wikipedia. It's a great way to understand how things work. What's a black hole? Why is the moon orange sometimes, right? These are some of the great things that we can encourage when we use that sort of creativity. And finally, I would just say, when I was writing, I actually have a book that I wrote about this, which I'll say, and in fact, Anna very kindly made a nice comment about my book called Digital for Good. But when I was researching the book, there was I talked to teachers and parents, and I say, do you recommend books to your kids? Oh yes, we absolutely do. And they have these strategies. Well, what are they interested in, and what do they care about? What's their reading level? And then I would ask, do you recommend apps to your kids or websites to your kids? And it was almost always silent, right? And so if we want our kids to be informed, we need to help make sure that we are providing them with recommendations and guiding them to be using these technologies as the curiosity tools that they are. Well, friends, I am out of time today. There are many more stories I can tell. Certainly, there's more we could talk about with Engage. I'm going to slip this one in here. I'm going to go 30 seconds over. Engage, this is a story that I tell in the book. Mia Hansen, she used digital technologies to get Jamba Juice to change from using styrofoam cups to biodegradable cups. Young kids, when they see these tools as tools that can be used to change their world, they do amazing things. So these are the 5 competencies for digital citizenship. If you want to know more, if you're interested in learning more, especially about how to use this at home, this is the copy of my book, Digital for Good. You can find it. I've heard that our event organizers are actually going to raffle off some copies of the book, and so they'll tell you how to do that at some point. Let me end now with a final thought, and that is this. Have you ever seen one of these mirrors that you put, all those, right? You put something in front and they show it bigger than it is. They're concaved or convexed or whatever. My science teacher is rolling her eyes at me right now. Well, this is what I want you to think about when we think about our technology use. And what I mean by this is, as much as we learn from telling kids things, the number one way they learn is by seeing what we do, modeling. But when we model our tech use, right, how we use our tech use, that is broadcast back to young people in amazing, powerful ways. And that happens if we use tech for good or if we use tech for less good ways. And so please consider our own tech use as adults as that curved, that enlarging mirror, and how we are using our tech. If we're using it for kindness, if we're using it for exploring, if we're using it for creativity, if we're using it to inform ourselves, if we're using it to make our community better and solve problems, that's what our kids will see. But they will see it 10 times bigger than the way that we put it in front of them. And so please leave that with our challenge to all of us. Digital citizenship, my friends, it is a team sport, and we need to work together to model amazing, effective behavior for our kids. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us here today. So grateful for your participation.